Lacrosse community, my name is Ryan Berns. I'm the founder of the Lacrosse Leadership Institute. It's our mission to empower all those that love lacrosse, to recognize the skills you gain from the sport, to ultimately live your best life possible. Today, we're so fortunate to be joined by Scott Bieda. Scott's been named as an All-American of the Big Ten while he was playing at Rutgers, currently coaching with Lafayette. He's been able to play in the professional venue, and he's gone and really impacted a ton of lives around the country. Scott, we're so fortunate for you to be here today. Before I share too much, can you give us a little bit of insight for the community that maybe isn't aware of your story? How'd you get into lacrosse, and weave us through your journey to today, please?
Yeah, first off, Ryan, I just wanted to thank you for having me on. Just super excited to talk about leadership, my journey. I'm certainly super grateful to have such, lacrosse has meant so much to me and been such an important piece of my life. So any way that I can give back. So grateful for you having me on. But for me, how I got into the game of lacrosse, I grew up in Bridgewater, New Jersey, which is in central New Jersey. I didn't really know anything about lacrosse. My mom and dad did not play lacrosse. They grew up in a town that there was no lacrosse. So for me, it was about basketball and football and a little bit of baseball when I was younger. In about sixth grade, coming out of a basketball court, I had one of the youth coaches come up to me and tell me, hey, have you ever heard about the game of lacrosse? I think you'd be pretty good at it. For me, basketball was life. I loved basketball. I loved hoops. I went to my first practice. And I honestly immediately fell in love with the game. It became very natural to me. The sport between basketball and lacrosse, there was a lot of similarities. But as I grew up, I still had a dream of playing hoops. That dream was kind of shot down when I didn't grow over 5'8" in high school, and I couldn't really shoot too well. So I started to gravitate towards the game of lacrosse. I had incredible youth coaches. MG Hollingsworth, to name one. He was actually a Rutgers lacrosse alum. Became one of my, idols and mentors in the game. He would have practices about 3 times a week, whether it was, behind the back Wednesdays or only wall ball Tuesdays. I mean, he just taught us the entire game of lacrosse. I remember going to his house and watching old Syracuse film footage while eating pizza on a Friday night. And it just slowly became part of my life. And when I got to high school, I was a little bit under-recruited and undersized. It kind of taught me how to still play the game at my size and find a way to be successful, to maybe outwork some of the other kids that had more talent than me. I had an opportunity to take a scholarship from Manhattan College when I was a junior and went through my senior year that next year and wound up that the coach, left the program. So my recruitment process kind of opened up a bit. And I took a big risk. I decided to walk on at Rutgers. A lot of my mentors and coaches that I had played for Rutgers, obviously MG Hollingsworth, the one I just mentioned. So I kind of had a little foot in the door, but at the same time, it was definitely a big risk of going there, of not, having any kind of leeway of I was going to play or I was going to get money to be there. It was just kind of a dream of mine, and I went for it. And that through that experience was just incredible. I wound up obviously having a ton of fun there, and we kind of turned the program around and look where they are now in the Final Four. So I wouldn't change it for the world. It made me a better person. And honestly, it's probably the reason why I got into coaching after, is just that experience.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool to hear, Scott, your story. And I think especially where we are on the West Coast in Arizona, there's a lot of kids that can relate to maybe being under recruited and just having a passion and a dream for lacrosse and feeling like, hey, maybe we don't have a shot. But sounds like you made the most of the situation, and you highlighted a few things. You said hard work, dreams. What do you attest to your success or anyone's success?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think belief. I think you have to have belief in yourself. I really do believe that that word risk, a lot of people throw around, but to me, there's not a big risk when you know that you're going to put your entire life, 110% hard work. You're never going to quit. Yeah, you're going to go through some tough times and there's going to be adversity. It's not going to be an easy road, but I like to tell our guys here, take the dirt road. Don't take the paved road. Everyone takes the paved road. That's the easy way. Take the dirt road because there's less people that travel on it. And when you get past that dirt road, the opportunity at the end of that road is even greater. There's more success. And it just feels a little bit better when you've done it your own way and you've paved your own path. So for me, I think it comes down to believe in yourself, believe in your preparation, believe in your hard work, and don't quit, because there's going to become a time where it is a little bit tough. And there are people that give up in that situation. If you just get over that little hump, you keep on chipping away at that stone, eventually it's going to break.
Oh, and that's the story of resiliency. We think about success in a lot of different ways. One of my favorite stories is something Napoleon Hill talks about in the personal development space of, hey, making $1 million is great, but that doesn't really matter. It's the person you become who made that money. And it's the same thing, I think, when we think about sports or anything in life. The person we ultimately become by taking that dirt road is someone who's strong, has fortitude, resiliency. And it sounds like that's what you've seen directly in your life.
Amen. That is the truth. I think I wouldn't be who I am today without those struggles. The heart is what makes it special.
Absolutely. Well, Scott, through this journey, do you have a Pinnacle lacrosse moment, or are there a couple moments that stick out to you?
Yeah, man. When I kind of heard that question, I had so many memories pop into my head. Actually, one just recently that just happened, and was an amazing moment for me, is my little brother plays at Delaware. He had his 5th year at Delaware, Mark Bieda. He was another kid who was under recruited, really didn't really have anywhere to go, and kind of a walk-on type scenario at Delaware as well. Didn't really play his first couple of years, got some time. But then the last 2 years, he's been a 2-time captain. Obviously led his team this year as a starting midfielder with 50 points to the quarterfinals. So for the last 4 weeks, I've been following him around. And honestly, there's just tears were flowing out of my eyes, just kind of seeing him have the success that he had, knowing the troubles that he went through, and just giving him a hug after, his last collegiate game was definitely a pinnacle moment, playing from the backyard to the big stage. That was amazing. For me personally, I think one of the biggest moments for me was when we went to Rutgers my freshman year. We were 2-13. For the seasons following that, we were below 500, and then I believe we only won 1 game my junior year in the Big Ten, our first year in the conference. And a goal for me was never about how many points I had or my accolades or being an All-American. Like, of course I wanted that because I wanted to be great in what I did, but more importantly, I wanted to create a legacy and something that, would far exceed my days when I was not there. And to me, that was being a leader, was being a captain. I really wanted to change that program for the better. And if it meant that I had 0 points, but we won, then I did my job. So a pinnacle moment for me was my senior year, senior day. We had to beat Penn State to get in the conference tournament. The first time that the school had been in a Big Ten conference tournament. And really the most wins that Rutgers had at the time in the past decade. And so we beat Penn State on senior day. It was an incredible game. Wound up going on to play Maryland in the Big Ten championship. We lost, but beating Johns Hopkins twice that year, just the overall match, just the turnover at that program, changing it from, that first year, my freshman year, to where I left it. Just that last game against Maryland, I'll never forget it. It's a pretty cool story, actually. As we lose, I have my head down and I'm walking off the field. And the head coach, John Tillman, didn't even celebrate with his team. As I look up, I think it's one of my teammates. It's actually Coach Tillman picking my head up and telling me, you did an incredible job here at Rutgers. There's absolutely nothing to hang your head about. You're going to be successful in whatever you do. And just for that moment, for another coach to say that was just amazing for me. That was a pinnacle moment, something I'll never forget. It made all those tough times and those years prior well worth it.
Oh my gosh. And I think it's to be mentioned that you were a 2-time captain at Rutgers as well. And this whole idea of legacy and just changing the culture. There's a team established. There's a bit of a legacy in your life just because your mentors are from there in the Jersey area. But it's going in and saying, hey, we can do more. We can do better. And it's hard to do. It's hard to change what's been set for so long. How'd you go about that, Scott? What does leadership mean to you?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think leadership means to me a lot of things. I think leadership is a word that gets thrown out a lot nowadays. And to me, when I got at Rutgers, it became quite simple what leadership was. It was less talking and more acting. I think what leaders struggle with nowadays is, always hear the question like, how do I hold my teammates accountable? Well, it's very hard to hold your teammates accountable if you're not doing and performing the actions that you want them to do as a leader. And I found out right away as a kind of a young kid in Rutgers of like, showing the right way was leading first myself. And if I could do that, then I could lead others. So for me, it was quite simple. I wanted to be the hardest worker and the most determined and the most committed player at Rutgers. And that was my goal and mission really for the first 2 to 3 years, to just change what it means to be cool. To be cool isn't going out on a Friday or Saturday. To be cool is to be a great lacrosse player. It's to work really hard, not on the field, but also off the field, spiritually, whether it was religion or Bible study. It was just, those are the things that, became cool at Rutgers. It became cool to stay after practice and take an extra 100 shots. That was something that, I wanted to change right away. And then from there, I think leadership is then, inspiring, motivating, and challenging others to do something that you're already doing. That's my basic definition of leadership. Inspire, motivate, challenge others to do something that you are already doing. And those 3 things came really my senior year, where I felt like I was in a place, whether it was a speech before the game, taking, younger kids, freshmen, underclassmen, maybe kids that didn't play, out to lunch, getting to know them, creating relationships, or whether it was, challenging teammates of, my own class, to give more, to be a little bit more committed. That's what it took, a full senior class of commitment to change that program. And that's really where I saw it come into play. And then really my last definition of leadership, I think there's 3 ways that you can lead. You can lead from the front, you can lead from the side, and you can lead from the back. Now, I think the greatest leaders can do all 3 almost simultaneously. They can push their team, to greater heights from leading from the front, really leading the pack, whether it's picking them up or maybe humbling your team when they need it. Leading from the side is just putting your arm around somebody, creating relationships, being authentic, not trying to be somebody who you're not. Listening to your teammates. Leading from the side is also about just learning from them. Listen, they have a lot to say and it can help you as a leader. And then I think the most important, which is 70% of leadership, is leading from the back. And that's servant leadership. That's doing the little things behind the scenes that not a lot of people see, but it goes a long way. Being the last off the bus and cleaning the bus, carrying the equipment to the bus, being the last to eat at team meals. They're so small, but it goes a long way when you are serving your teammates. It's a whole lot easier to lead when you're serving them and then asking nothing in return for that. That's just the love that I have for you, because I love leading you and I love serving you. So those are the 3 things that I really think about in leadership. Leadership is something that I'm very fond of, and something that excites me every single day. Is I became a coach because I want to build leaders. And help young men become great leaders so that they can go out in the real world and be successful in whatever they do.
Oh my goodness, Scott, there's so much in there, and it's so cool to have this conversation. And I watched one of your interviews on the Big Ten Network when they asked you about leadership and you thanked your team, but now to see it here and being able to, I'm assuming a lot of retrospection, thinking about what you were doing to now, where you are now. My favorite part of this, though, is the 3 types of leadership: from the front, the side, which is, I think, critical. The side's how we empathize and we actually build those relationships and emotionally appeal with all of our teammates. And it takes time. But ultimately, that servant side of things and the love is so big for you. And that's the most important part, I think, of changing what it means to be cool and what it means to be a man and things like that is really important. Is that just something internally when you went into the program, you said, I need to change what cool is? Were there others that helped you? Because I have to imagine that was probably a decision that you made that didn't go over well at first. And ultimately you go for it.
Oh, of course. You're spot on there. I mean, that took some bumps in the road to change that. And I think there were points where, as I got older, there was more kids coming in the program, you know, the Jules Henningbergs of the world, the Adam Charlene-Beatties of the world, that kind of latched onto that because they wanted to be great too. And not to say that there weren't players there that wanted to be great. It was just great in a different way. It was great in all aspects of your life, not just on the field, but in everything that you did. You wanted to give 110%. And honestly, you wanted to be the best at it. You wanted to give all your best. So there was definitely bumps in the road, but you did have certain teammates that started to gravitate towards you. And then all of a sudden, the being a leader from the side starts to help. All those side combos and small conversations that you have of building relationships, then you start to have some success. And it's like, oh, wow, working hard is cool. I can still be a really good teammate and be able to go have friends and go out to lunch and have great conversations, but still work my tail off behind the scenes and do everything possible to be the best player. You can do both. You absolutely can do both. It takes time, but I think just for me internally, when I got there, it was just kind of something that it was instilled in me by my dad, my mom, of just like create something different, be different. Don't be like everyone else. Don't be a follower, be a leader. And that wasn't something that I wanted to follow. I wanted to change that. And luckily I had some incredible people around me that helped me create that.
Thanks for sharing that, Scott. And that shows your core values, your integrity is the biggest thing, the character that we have and how we represent ourselves every single day, and that vision of the best version of ourselves. Mm-hmm. And it takes a lot. My mom always used to tell us, make good choices, even if your friends don't. Mm-hmm. and that was something that just seeped in on me. And it's like, okay, we got to act in the way that we want to. And eventually, like you said, especially I think at the elite athletic level, there are people that have similar core values of work hard, grind, grit, all those things. But right. You start to build a crew, and then it's a foundation to build others on you. For the youth that are watching right now, Scott, what can they do to elevate their game or to be able to play in college or professionally? What are you telling kids? Or if you look back at your playing life, what were you doing that you would do, or what were you doing that you wouldn't do?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think my story is a little unique in that, and unique in a way that I think it speaks to a certain type of player, youth player that's out there right now, which is why I love telling this story. Like, again, I was 5'8", and when you're 5'8", you know, everyone tells you have to be really quick and fast. Well, I really wasn't that either. My 40 time stunk. I can't really jump that high. I shoot the ball probably like high 70s, low 80s. So like shooting isn't like a big thing for me either. But what I did do is like, okay, well, I'm not the biggest, fastest, strongest, but this game of lacrosse, I can be great with my stick and still be a great player. So I found out at a very early age, if I hit the wall every single day, and not just some of the time, I'm talking my birthday, Christmas, Thanksgiving, every holiday, if I hit the wall every day, I can be great at this game. And I can play with the kids that are bigger, faster, and stronger with me, because no matter what, when I'm on the field, I can catch and throw with the best of them. And catching and throwing is the heart of the game of lacrosse. I tell our guys this at the college level. It's the first thing that's going to get you on the field, but it's also the first thing that's going to get you taken off the field if you can't catch and throw. So to me, to the youth kids, there's one thing, like going out and shooting is great, but take like 15 to 20 minutes and just go hit the wall. Loosen up your wrists a little bit, create a wall ball program, create a disciplined, you know, approach where you hit that wall every day. And if it's not every day, it's every other day. But anytime that you have that stick in your hands, to me, and you're working on catching and throwing, the rest will come into place. Like on an average possession, right? There's probably on average 2.5 shots, probably less, actually went down a little bit. It's like 2.2 shots you pass and catch on average 30 times. So which one should you work on more? Obviously passing and catching, but I see so much, you know, guys go out, bring a bucket of balls and shoot 20 yards because they've seen it in an MLL or a PLL highlight, which is great. And you want to have fun. But at the same time, what got me to where I was my fundamentals, my stick work, and my ability to understand the game. And understanding the game is something that's ever growing. You know, I talked about MG bringing us over on a Friday night to watch Syracuse clips. He gave us all a notebook where we'd write down plays. So for me, like, all that came into play of lacrosse IQ, of just learning, watching, listening, anywhere that you can pick your hands on a YouTube clip, watching these NCAA games, watching the PLL this summer. It all goes into play of becoming a better lacrosse player. So any way that you can soak that in, I think that's great. But when it comes down to it, to me, it is about your stick work, and your ability to catch and throw.
Oh, fundamentals. If we want to be extraordinary, we got to do the ordinary very, 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 very well. And it comes down to the stick work. The stat about shots per possession and passes per possession is huge. I always like to talk about the off-ball play, because you're one. If you have the ball,
1-6,
and there's 6 players on the field, you're only going to be on-ball defense or the offensive player with the ball a very small percentage of the time. So it's important to practice those things that are actually relevant to the game. So thanks for bringing that up, Scott. I know we're wrapping up on time, but I want to make sure that we give a shout to B47, and I want you to share a little bit about that before we go any further.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. So B47 was something that I started. So this is actually kind of part of my journey too into the coaching world, which I'm glad you brought up. So right when I got out of college, it was a dream of mine to be on Wall Street. And I did that. I got an internship with Credit Suisse in New York City. They wound up giving me a full-time job offer, and I came back. And I did it for about 6 months. It's not that I didn't enjoy it. It's just that I missed lacrosse so much. So I was 6 months on Wall Street, and found out very quickly, like, man, I missed the game of lacrosse, and I missed coaching. And really, at the end of the day, I missed impacting lives. It was something that I was, prided myself on at Rutgers with being a captain. And I just wanted to get back in the game. So I went from a job on Wall Street to a volunteer here at Lafayette College. And I needed to find a way to make money. So I decided to start my own camp business and own clinic business, really privatizing on one-on-one lessons with kids around the Lehigh Valley and back in Jersey. So I started this camp business, and the camp business was honestly started not only to, enhance the fundamentals of your game, but my hope was that you were going to learn a little bit more than just the game of lacrosse. You were going to learn about the game of life. And that's where the word complete came in, is that I was going to make you a complete player, because it's not about being just the best shooter or the best passer or the best off-ball guy. The best players are ones that can do all three. And that was really my kind of pitch to B47. I had a ton of fun, coached a ton of camps. Me and my brother started to work together as he grew older. It's definitely something that I want to start back up as time kind of goes into the future. But our kind of mission and goal is to create complete players, from your feet up. And I think more and more of where lacrosse is going, I hope that there's more people that give back in that sense. There's something to be said about going to a one-on-one clinic more than just going to 10 club games on a weekend. That's a lot of fun, and that's part of it. But are you really getting better by just playing club games? You need to work on your skill. You need to break down your fundamentals, attack your weaknesses while also getting better at your strengths. So that was really kind of the notion on that camp business, and I had a lot of fun doing it, and it taught me a lot and made me a better coach. It's made me, think about how do I teach, those little small intricacies, those little drill work, skill work that make those players from good to great.
Oh my gosh, the complete player is what's coming up to me, and I think about what you said earlier with the spirituality of yourself and being a complete man at the end of the day. It's not only lacrosse, it's all aspects of life, and you're able to be such a great mentor to those individuals. Scott, thanks so much for taking the time to share your story with us, to share about leadership. Your entire process is amazing. Last thoughts on leadership, lacrosse, anything else you want to impart on our community right now?
No, just that I think just for me, this stuff is just amazing. I think with COVID and everything that's gone on, something that I've been reflecting on is just gratitude. It's a word that's really big here at Lafayette, and something that Coach Myers, my head coach, instills in our players. It's something that before every practice, we actually take a knee and just take a second to think back and reflect on what you're grateful for. And I'm really grateful for just the experiences that lacrosse has given me, the people that I've met, the people that have mentored me, shaped me who I am, my parents, my coaches, the players that I've been around. And then Ryan, people like yourself, just making me a better person, being able to give my gift of, speaking and teaching about leadership. I'm just super grateful to be in a lacrosse community that it's such a small world and everybody is connected. Just, super grateful to be a part of it.
Well, Scott, we're so grateful for you as well. And I know you're going to continue to do amazing things and impact so many lives. Your legacy is definitely going to transcend us and everything else. So thank you again. We really appreciate you.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, guys.